My female 35, amazing mom passed away from cancer a few years ago when she was only in her mid-50s. We were very close, spoke every day, and I considered her my best friend. She was also a fantastic grandma to mine and my brothers, male 32, children. I have spent much of the last 15 years as a single parent, so my mom and I would take my children on holiday together, and she would be there for every special event and milestone. Mom was remarried to her husband for 10 years, and they both had good jobs, so in that time, they bought several houses between them that are rented out. I was never particularly close to Mom's husband, but my brother got on with him well. Don't get me wrong, I didn't dislike him, and our relationship was perfectly amicable. We just weren't close. Mom and her husband had minor wills and a discretionary trust set up to manage the inheritance. She left very clear written instructions for how the trust should be handled. But ultimately, it's down to the trustee's discretion how and when it is paid. You can see where this is going. The trustees are my mom's husband, plus 2 others, and all trustees must be unanimous to make decisions on the trust. My mom wanted us to have our inheritance sooner rather than later. She went out of her way to tell us this when she knew her illness was terminal. It is also clearly written in the instructions for the trust. She fully trusted her husband and the other trustees, and never would have expected that her instructions might not be followed. Her husband has other ideas and wants us to wait until he has also passed away before we get our inheritance, which could be another 30 years for all I know. He never mentioned this to my mom while she was still here, or I'm certain she would have changed her will to ensure we got it when she wanted. We have tried to compromise with him, but he has cut all contact and refuses to talk to us. He is in a new relationship for the past couple of years and has clearly moved on with his life. His children have also cut contact with us. It may be important to point out that our inheritance amounts to approximately 30% of the current value of their estate. The rest is her husband, who also has a very good pension and who would remain completely financially stable without our inheritance. My brother and I aren't exactly destitute. We both work full-time, etc. But our mom did used to help us out financially with things like paying for clubs for our children that we might not necessarily be able to afford ourselves. Her passing has been very difficult to deal with, and I still don't feel like I've been able to come to terms with it, largely due to this conflict over the inheritance. So, is it wrong to want what my mom wanted? I really feel like I need outside perspective on whether I am the a-hole here. Edit to add. I might be the a-hole because Mom's husband and a couple of others have told me I'm being unreasonable and just need to wait until he has passed away. Not the a-hole. My advice is to lawyer up. In almost all of these cases, the persons who make decisions for the trust are obligated to do so with the trustee's best interest at heart. Since waiting 30 years is not that, you should have a very good chance. Rare exception is that if getting it now would make her late husband homeless and broke, courts have been known to rule that the person creating the will would not have wanted that. Not the a-hole. Get a lawyer and have them read the docs. If the docs say you are able to have access sooner, then it should be followed accordingly. You may have legal standing to have the trustees forcibly removed if they willfully and knowingly violated their responsibilities for the trust, as well as any financial damage as a result of it. My sister and I were shopping at our local mall. We were having a normal Sister's Day out when we came across a store that said it offered diamond testing services. We went in out of curiosity. I've never been married, but my sister is currently in her 4th year of marriage. Her husband is a good guy. He's pretty well off. He runs his own clothing business and has a few stores, and he owns 4 fast food restaurants. I was happy for my sister to find stability, not that she needed his money. She works in a big tech company and makes really good money too. I wanted to buy some earrings, so I went to browse while she asked for her ring to be checked because she was curious and wanted to know how much it was worth. She got a call halfway through and told me to keep an eye on her ring. The dude in the store made a face after a while, and I asked what's wrong, and he said it's fake. He said it's probably quartz and not a diamond. I thought that was appalling. Why would a well-to-do man buy a cheap ring? It would not be a problem if he had told her it wasn't real in the beginning. She would not have cared. She's not materialistic. But the fact that he lied and presented a ring with a seemingly big diamond to her is very weird and not okay. The shopkeeper asked me if I wanted him to tell her, or if I will, so I said I'd do it. I took her to a nearby cafe and sat her down and told her it's fake. She didn't believe me, went back in to ask him, had it rechecked and got the same result. She was livid and agreed with my opinion that had he told her it was quartz, she would not have cared if he just told her what it really was. So she made me drive her back to their home where she tore him a new one. He yelled back at her and called her materialistic and tacky, and she took her ring off and threw it at him. She packed a suitcase and she said she was going to live with me for a while. He pleaded with her to stay, but she told him not to touch her. I got tons of messages and calls from her husband, saying I've ruined their marriage and that I should have told him first and given him a chance to clear things with her, that it was not my place to say anything, and that I've also ruined my sister's life because she is considering divorce. There's other factors at play here, honestly. It's been 3 weeks and she's kicked him out of the house. It's her house, so he can't do anything about it. He's blaming me for this and saying I was out of line and a horrible sister and that I'm ruining her life. I do feel bad. I don't want to watch my sister go through a divorce. It's bound to be painful for her. Should I have kept my mouth shut and let him do it? Or was I a good sister in letting her know? Not the a-hole. You didn't ruin the marriage. He did when he decided to lie. It's not the fact that the ring's fake. It's the fact he lied about it for years. Not to mention the other factors at play. This is just the straw that broke the camel's back. Not the a-hole. It's your fault he bought a fake and lied? You have a responsibility to tell your sister the truth. She can decide what she does with that knowledge. This doesn't make sense. Quartz is almost never used for engagement rings, especially not faceted. It's fairly hard, but below the 8 recommended for daily wear. It also doesn't look much like diamond. It's clear, but has a much lower refractive index, 1.5 compared to 2.5, so it won't sparkle much even if it's faceted. If a ring is meant to look like a diamond, it'll be moissanite or cubic zirconia, not quartz. I, 28 female, am a radiology resident. The other day we were hanging out with friends and one of them, let's call him Jason, brought his new girlfriend, Alice. So Jason asks me to repeat a story from work that I had told him earlier that week, for everyone to listen. Alice interrupted me directly and exclaimed that we are colleagues and she could relate to my story so much being a doctor herself. I thought, great, it's cool to meet new people who can relate to the hardships of medicine, so I asked her if she's a resident or an attending. She's a little older. She then said she's a dermatologist, so I assumed she meant a dermatology attending. The conversation continued, and I eventually found out that she's not a physician, but a nurse practitioner, NP, working at a dermatologist's office. For those of you who don't know, NPs have the right to practice independently in some states, meaning without the direct supervision of a physician. If you don't work in healthcare, you probably don't know the situation, but let's say that's not a good idea. Limited knowledge and education leads to a lot of mistakes and lowers the quality of care. Obviously, that's not a universal statement. I love the NPs I work with, but if you know, you know. So I tell her, then you're a dermatology NP, not an attending dermatologist, and she got offended. Began saying that she can do anything a doctor can, and sometimes even better. I said I don't doubt your abilities, but it's misleading to present yourself as a physician, especially to patients who don't know any better. She called me an elitist and left the bar. Jason called me the next day and asked me to apologize to Alice for offending her profession. As I said, I have nothing against NPs, but calling yourself a physician and claiming you have the exact same knowledge, if not more, is incredibly misleading. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I didn't call her out in front of everyone. It was more of a conversation between me and her. I doubt the others were listening, as they were engaging in their own conversations. Not the a-hole at all. I work in healthcare and agree with you 100%. Not the a-hole. Nurse practitioners are valuable for handling minor, lower-level things so a doctor doesn't need to, and as a valuable backup to a doctor. They're not doctors. Not the a-hole. It's a serious thing to present as a doctor, or a cop, or a judge, or a Purple Heart winner, without being one. She is in the medical profession, and I have no doubt she knows this. To be clear, what she did was unprofessional, and where I live, it's illegal. You didn't humiliate her in public if you were having a conversation with her and everyone else was distracted. And if you had humiliated her, she would have deserved it. You do not owe someone an apology for misrepresenting herself as a doctor. She is lucky you're not reporting her to whatever the medical standards body is called where you are. You need to tell Jason that you're sorry he's in an awkward position, but that Alice cannot represent herself as having qualifications she doesn't. That she is in the medical profession, and it is unacceptable she is doing this. He may be angry or face pressure from Alice to cut you off, but I wouldn't worry about it. Someone who is doing what Alice is doing is going to have problems in her relationship sooner or later. Mike, 33 male, and I, 32 female, have been together for 15 years, married for 8. We met through our mothers. We're both Scottish. We have always talked about wanting to raise kids in Scotland, but really enjoyed life in the US. When we moved in together 10 years ago, my family unloaded all their junk onto us. It was nice furniture, but bulky and large. We took it with a smile and used it until we got our feet under us. Then we tried to give the stuff back, but my family told me to keep it. No one wanted anything back. I put it into a storage unit, thinking I could give it to my sister or a younger cousin. No one wanted the stuff back. I ended up being used as a dumping ground for a lot of old furniture. I had a huge storage unit we were keeping a boat in, but we sold the boat and filled it with furniture. I should have said no to stuff, but I didn't want to make people upset. We asked for about 10 years if people wanted this stuff back, so we assumed it was all junk. Mike got a job back in Scotland. I wanted to start having kids, so I said let's just sell everything and move. We sold our furniture and the furniture in the storage unit. Mike has a friend who does restoration, and he paid us about $20K for everything. It was a lot of furniture. I know it was probably a great deal for Tom because he looked shocked we agreed. I told him I wanted it gone, didn't have time or mental energy to worry about it, and good luck to him. Turns out the storage unit furniture was worth a lot more than $20K. There were a few really valuable pieces in there that no one told me about. They just handed them off and said to have fun. By the time we sold everything, with our cars, we had a good $45K and we left. It wasn't until my sister called that I realized people were angry. She said she went to the storage unit and it was not opening. I told her we moved, so of course we didn't have the stuff. She said she just wanted the old rocking chair in there. I said it wasn't there because we sold it. She asked how much stuff we sold. I said all of it because we were not going to take ugly old furniture with us to Scotland. I kept a few trunks, but everything bulky was pretty much sold. We even sold our furniture in our house, which we did like, so. She said that all the furniture was heirloom and I got ripped off. I told her she had 10 years to claim what she wanted and she never did, so I was not worried. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You had this stuff for 10 years. By any law in the US, it's considered abandoned. You told them to get it. They said no. You sold it. Money is yours. Don't feel guilty. Not the a-hole. And as for the furniture being worth a lot more, it really only is to people who recognize or care about it. If you had tried to sell it on Marketplace or similar, you probably would have gotten less. My sister, Olivia, and I are not close. Prior to this incident, I hadn't spoken to her in almost a year and a half. A few weeks ago, Olivia visited her friend who lives about 15 to 20 minutes walk away from us. I had known that Olivia was in town, but I had no plans or intentions of visiting her. Olivia accidentally delivered a package to our house instead of her friend's. She called and I told her that I would bring the package to her. My wife, Irene, went to give back the package. We live in a nice, bikeable, walkable city that allows for Irene to bike most places. She has a mama bike, a bike made for mothers with small children, and uses it whenever she is with our 3-year-old daughter. I was not there, but Irene says that Olivia looked horrified when she noticed her bike. She started asking a lot of questions about the safety of our daughter on the bike, asking if Irene was always this reckless, and making unnecessary comments about how a good mother could never do something so dangerous. In the moment, Irene was confused and did not say anything in response, only trying to reassure her that she was not harming anyone. I got a call from Olivia that night, warning me about my wife's reckless habits. She asked me a bunch of questions about my well-being, about my daughter's well-being, and if I felt safe in the house. I answered her questions truthfully and asked her to stop bothering me with stories about my wife. She blocked my number that night. I assumed that the whole issue was put to rest. This past weekend, my mom and Olivia showed up at my doorstep, unannounced. I let them in but told them that I wouldn't be staying for long. Irene and my daughter were not home at the time. Olivia started telling me that Irene is a terrible mother, in reference to the biking incident, and that I needed to leave her for the safety of my child. Instead of letting me respond, they started talking about divorce and obtaining custody. It was a lot to handle, and it was all so fast that I was left in shock. I was angry and offended. I yelled at them, calling them foolish instigators for meddling in my life like that. I kicked them out and told them I never ever wanted to see them again. Irene stands with me but wishes I worded it better. Not the a-hole, but honestly, I don't think this will be the end of things. These folks sound like the type to call CPS over nothing. Unfortunately, you may want to expect a visit, because they have to investigate every report, no matter how trivial. Sorry. You may want to go low or no contact with your dear mother after this, and definitely don't let her have your daughter alone.